She looks gorgeous. So Christa works at Grant Cardone, Canada, and her actual title is Director of Scouting and Development. So if you guys don't know what Grant Cardone is, Grant Cardone is the #1 training system for sales. So it's called Cardone University. And so they help businesses figure out their sales strategy. And you might know Elena Cardone. We've had her speak before. She's amazing. She has her book, Build an Empire. So she is the wife of Grant Cardone, and he is incredible. We love him. I think I've learned so much from Grant. So Christa is basically in the world of sales every day. So we've put together a fun little presentation. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. But Christa, if you want to say anything before we get started, the floor is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Super excited to be on this call here, ladies, and to meet all of you. And yeah, as Megan mentioned, I've worked with Grant Cardone Canada for some time now. In the area of sales, I work with clients. I have about 75 clients I work with on like a daily basis, going through coaching for them, helping them get a culture created within their company, sharpen their team up on sales. I also have a background in counseling, actually. I used to be a counselor, so I have quite a good understanding of people and how they work, and how to approach them with certain things. So super excited to get into a few tips here. And go over some main points on creating a successful sales strategy.
Awesome.
I'd love to check too, just before we start, if anybody, you can put it in the chat or speak up if you want to as well, but if there's any points that anybody would like to have us touch on, or anything specific that you ladies would like to get out of the call today. I just want to make sure I'm clear on that too before we launch into it. So go ahead, put in the chat or speak up if you have anything you want to add. Give you guys a sec.
I feel like overcoming objections is like a good one, because, oh yeah, Chelsea said the same thing. That's funny because we're like, you kind of, sometimes people just automatically have that no. So like handling a no.
Totally.
Maybe like creating like follow-up systems would be good. Because sometimes like forgetting like your contacts or like people you've met that are like potential customers. So that would be good. Or just, I'm talking a lot here, but myself, like how to like actually reach out to people or get trained on like calling people or ways to actually like create a sale. Cause maybe.
Totally. I love it. Absolutely. We'll definitely touch on all of those points. I love them. They're very, very key for sales. So perfect. Appreciate it, ladies. So,
this is a good question too. How do I create belief in the product, or how do I portray my passion and belief to strangers?
I like it.
Being able to share from a heart-centered connection. Okay, good. Those are some really good things. Is that good for you, Christa?
Yeah, I'm just making some notes, make sure that we touch on everything. So perfect.
Awesome.
All right, cool. Shall we start with the slideshow here?
Yeah, I'll share my screen.
Okay, perfect.
Everyone see that?
Perfect.
Okay, good.
Okay, excellent.
That's
awesome.
You.
There's me. It is I. Perfect. So the first thing I wanted to touch on, even before we go over the first slide here, is actually the concept. It's an interesting concept. Some of you may have heard of it before. Some of you may not have, but it's the idea of something called be, do, and have. And everything starts, the beginning of the sales process is attitude. That is the beginning of everything you do. First thing you have to get straight is your attitude. And a lot of the time what happens with people is they have this idea that they have to be able to have something before they can do something, or before they can take on sort of a certain vibe or a certain aura. And something that is very effective in making sure that you're actually able to get to the point that you want to get to and be able to have the things you want to have is actually taking on, like, imagine what you want to create. So you want to create a certain business model, or you want to be the CEO of a company, or you want to reach a certain state, have your family be a certain way. Imagine if you had all that, how you would act, how you would be. And you want to actually take on, we call that like a beingness. You want to take on that beingness before you're even there. Sounds kind of counterintuitive. And a lot of the time people are like, yeah, I'll be confident, or I'll be really out there, I'll be this or that once I actually reach that point. But the reality is, to get to that point, you have to be able to take that on right at the beginning and then take the actions. That's where the be part happens, and then the do part. So you take on that beingness, and then you take the actions you need to take in order to be able to get those things and have those things. So I wanted to just touch on that right at the beginning because it's such a key point and often gets missed. People think they have to have something before they can be something. So wanted to touch on that first here with attitude. We can probably share the screen again there, Megan, and go into the first slide.
Awesome. I was
Awesome.
writing that down. I was like, it's so true, right? It's how you
It
show
is.
up. Okay.
It is. And it's like that really affects the people that you talk to as well. Like if someone comes up to me and like, you know, they come off as like uncertain or hesitant or whatever, immediately I'm uncertain and I'm hesitant as well. And I don't necessarily believe what they're telling me. But if someone comes to me and maybe they've even just started a project, they've literally just started a business and they have almost nothing into it yet, but they're certain, they're confident, and they have that attitude, and they've taken on that beingness, as we call it, of being a CEO or being this or being that, immediately it inspires confidence and completely changes my perspective of that person. So
I love it. Such a good point.
Yes. Awesome. Okay, cool. So the first step of creating your sales strategy is surveying your market. So actually figuring out who your ideal customer is and building an avatar of them. So the first point on that too is like, it's similar to the concept of be, do, and have. It goes name, want, get. So if you want to get something, you have to be able to name specifically exactly what you want before you can get to that. So you name it out, you plan it out in detail. Never be afraid to go into extreme detail. A lot of the time what happens when people are setting goals or setting targets for themselves is they're a bit vague or they're general. And they're like, yeah, I would like to have, you know, I'd like to be a millionaire. I'd like to create an empire. Okay, great. But what does that look like for you? What are the specifics of that? So in terms of actually naming out who your customer is, be very specific with it. Get your vision very clear in your own mind of what you want and who you want to work with, who you want your clientele to be, and what you want them to look like. And again, just don't be afraid to get extremely specific on it. And like creating an avatar, it's funny, just to share a personal experience. We were recently, we are still hiring, but we were hiring for a specific position, and we hadn't created an avatar for it yet of who we wanted to hire. We went ahead and literally just listed it all out, exactly what we wanted that person to look like. And very soon after that, we actually got candidates in the funnel and hired who fit that exact mold. So the power of actually, I guess you call it manifesting, right? Of actually specifically writing something down and putting it out into the universe, so to speak. It's immeasurable. So be very, very specific when you're naming out exactly what you want. And then another key point, I don't know if you wanted to add anything on that, Megan, or your experience with that too.
Oh no, I was like, I love that one, right? When you just like, hey, you just totally list it out and you're like, there you are. Thank you.
Exactly.
But you have to have the intention too when you're doing it.
Totally.
Like I'm going to actually make that happen. Really good. I love everything you're saying. I'm like, this is such a good presentation so far. Thank you.
Totally. Yeah. Intention is senior to literally everything. And for anyone who's read Elena Cardone's book too, this works on everything. Like she mentions doing this on she did this back in the day when she was single to find her perfect spouse. So it literally applies in business, in your personal life, financially, it applies in everything. So do not be afraid to get very, very specific. And then another key part is sometimes people make the mistake before they're starting to market or trying to get their message out to someone is they assume what that person wants. They create their vision of it, which is fine. Like you want to be able to put yourself in that person's shoes and make notes on things and get an idea of what you think they're going to want. But more importantly, you actually have to create that avatar and then go and find those people and actually survey them. Actually find out from them what's important to them. What do they need? What do they want? What would change their lives? What would make their day-to-day easier? And actually conduct that. And there's a number of different ways you can do that. Obviously online, Instagram, different social media tools make that very easy to do these days, which is great. But there's nothing that really replaces having that kind of human, that live connection as well. So even calling up people, friends that you know of who fit that mold, who fit that avatar of what you want to create. An avatar, if anyone isn't clear on what that is, just a representation of a model of something or your ideal situation for something. And really getting good communication with them. You know, I would create probably 5 to 10 questions. You know, ask people it verbally, send it out to people, post it online, post it wherever you can, and find out what's important. Because again, like even when you're selling online or it's over Zoom or whatever, the sales process applies. And the pieces of the sales process, it goes attitude, greeting, and then a fact find. And this piece fits in with the fact finding piece. You want to find out what do they need, what's important, so that you can then tailor your presentation or your pitch or your proposal to exactly what you know they're going to be looking for. And if you don't do that, often you'll kind of hit the mark or miss the mark rather, or not hit on the exact points that people are necessarily going to want to be hearing from you on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think that's so important. Actually, I really like that you touched on that. So I'm like, I don't know if we have that actually written out, the sales cycle process, but it's so true.
Yeah.
For Modern Day Wife, when we do our calls, like we always find out what their goals are first, because if we go into our pitch, but we don't even know what they want, then we could basically be trying to sell them the wrong opportunity or the wrong product. And
Exactly.
they're like, didn't even want that in the first place. But then if we know what they want, then we're like, oh, well, this package would be great for you, or this experience would be so good for you. And it makes the sale much easier. And then it's a win-win for everyone because they're getting what they want. And then we're also able to provide for them what they need. So I really love that you mentioned that.
Exactly. And you know, another really key part of doing that, what we call fact find, some people call it like a needs analysis, is also asking them questions like whatever it is, whatever the product or service is that you are offering or you're marketing right now, you want to find out from them what their experience has been like with anything similar to that they've used in the past, or what they might be using right now instead of that. We call this like the appraisal. It's from, obviously, Grant's very involved in the automotive industry, and it comes from that, but it actually applies to every industry, because even if, you know, obviously an automotive person comes in, they want to trade in a car, you have to appraise what they have. But everyone you're working with, they have some kind of existing situation or scene. You know, say you're selling a particular, you know, how to market, like a social media marketing tool or service. Well, most likely they have something they're already using in place of that right now, whether they're using someone else's service or their own tools, whatever it is. You want to find out from them, you know, what do they like about that right now? What do they not like about that? What do they want to see changed? What do they want to see that's different? Because if you do a thorough fact find and appraisal of what their current scene is, this is going to take all of the force and all of the stress and pressure out of actually closing them on your pitch or your product, because now you're like, you know exactly what they're thinking and you know exactly what to push with them in your pitch. So surveying cannot be understated.
Okay, awesome. Is there any questions on surveying, or before we move to the next slide? I'm trying to see everyone's faces. Everyone's good.
Scrolling up and down.
That makes sense so far. Okay, perfect. I know we have like
Awesome.
Service-based business on here, product-based business, wine industry,
Nice.
coaching programs, clothing, just to give you an idea of some of the industries that the ladies work in on the call, and supplements. So we've
Perfect.
got tons of different, you know, I guess case studies that you could use. And I know you'll probably tell them at the end, like, you're obviously getting this data from somewhere. So if you guys are looking for help with sales training, Christa can tell you how she knows all of this incredible info.
Yes, the keys to the castle.
Totally.
Okay, sweet. Awesome. And then this is one of my favorite pieces of this presentation, actually. And it goes over building a database and something called a power base. And a power base is basically your prospect list, and it includes everybody you know. This includes, you know, first and foremost, obviously, your friends, your family, associates at past jobs, past employers, current, former clients, members of your club, your church, neighbors, people who like beat you up in high school, people who were mean to you in high school. It's pretty much anybody you have ever met in your life. And a lot of the time people will overlook this area, and it's like a completely unmined area that can have so much gold and so much value in it. And sometimes what happens is people have this back off, like they feel like, I don't want to be too pushy with my friends or be too pushy with my family. Or you have this idea that they're not gonna, they don't want to hear your pitch, or it's gonna make it awkward at family situations or interactions. But the reality is, these are the people who most know you and most want to help you. So Grant Cardone emphasizes this hugely, is like, this should be the first area that you reach out to in terms of everything. And what is actually recommended is to create a list, like literally write down, some of you have probably done something very similar to this, but write a list of everybody in your power base, all of your family, all of your friends, former friends, acquaintances, people you go to yoga with, people you go, you meet, your hairdresser, your massage therapist, people you buy from as well. Because a lot of the time people you buy from, or that you pay for some service from, are more than likely going to be willing to reverse that flow and buy something from you, or allow you to service them as well. So for the most part, when people go through and actually create this list, they find people that they hadn't thought of before, or that they forgot about. And there is literally money and opportunity and relationships sitting there, ready to be used and ready to be taken full advantage of. So that's a major point that I don't know if that's new information to you guys, if you feel like you've completely mined your power base already. But check this out, take a fresh look at it. And
that's a deal.
Yeah. We're in the Grant Cardone Canada office right now. We have a massive gong every time someone gets a deal, we hit the gong. So a little celebration out there. But yeah, this is a huge point. Megan, did you have anything to add, or any successes from using this tip yourself?
Yeah, no, I've definitely used this one a lot. I mean, even when I started Project You, that's like the first, I remember this is like 4 years ago. I was on vacation and I was about to host my first event, and I wrote out in my notebook all the names of people I could ask to support me on this first event. And we still do that, like, constantly. I've done it selling hair products all the time. I revisit it because it's really good. Like, you're always meeting new people too, and kind of adding to the list. I think the one thing that
totally,
I'm like, I need a software that houses all these names though. So
exactly.
But it's very important to do. And I think even too, you might touch on this, but like continuing to always build the relationships with these people.
Yeah.
Because we're so busy,
totally.
Right? Like, this is on my list to do at some point in the next week, but like handwrite cards. Like, we got cards made for Modern Day Wife to everyone who's supported us in the last year. Cause it's so like, yeah, you have kids, or you have friends, a relationship, a dog, whatever. Things take up your time, but you don't want people, you're still thinking of those people, but maybe you don't have enough time to connect with them as you once did. So it's nice to still have them remember you.
Totally.
And never like lose your communication with your power base.
Yeah, exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth, is because it's called your power base for a reason. They're your power. And a huge mistake would be to like cut yourself off from them or lose contact with them. And, you also don't want to be like, you have to maintain that relationship, because you can't just be like, oh, I haven't talked to, Sally Joe in 10 years. I'm going to call her up and try to sell her on something right away. She's going to probably be like, what the hell? Who are you? And why are you calling me? You want to make sure that you actually create that relationship first as well. And the more you actually invest into creating relationships with people, the more opportunity you're going to have to be able to use that relationship in a way that actually also benefits both of you mutually. You have to be willing to put that care into it too, and be genuinely interested in the people you're talking to.
Yes. People know when you don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And too, it doesn't feel good.
Exactly. You can tell when they just want to get something out of you versus when they're actually interested in building a relationship. So service over selling. That's what Grant always says. It's a very key point. And as far as a database too, even as simple like Excel sheet is what I found is the easiest thing to do, is literally create a list of names, write everybody down and then write like, contacted, followed up with again, pitched, followed up with a third time. So it's like you can check it off as you go along and actually keep track of what you've done with certain people, who you haven't established a communication line with recently, who you need to call again, who you haven't called in like 6 months. And it allows you to actually keep track of that and see the whole picture all at once.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Okay, next slide.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, perfect. This one is honestly, it's pretty simple and it pretty much speaks for itself. And it's just the importance of making sure that you're very clear on what you're selling and why it's unique. And you have to be so sold on what you're doing and what you're selling that it becomes impossible for somebody else to not get sold on it. So Grant actually talks about this, and he actually says the most important sale is to yourself, is you being sold on you, on why you are the best person to service your customer, on why your product is different and better than everybody else's, and why you can help them better than anybody else. And you can actually notice if you ever find that your production drops, like, you're doing really well, things are going along nicely, and all of a sudden your production just drops off and your statistics go down. That is because there is something about what you're doing you have become unsold on. Maybe somebody said something to you, maybe they like insulted your product a little bit, or they put in a little jab there. They're like, oh, you're doing that. Oh, isn't there so many other people who do that already? Or something that's kind of, some little passive aggressive comments, or maybe you had a phone call with someone, you tried to pitch them, they shut you down, they hung up on you, whatever. Something happened that kind of got in the way and caused you to feel more uncertain about what you were doing, less passionate, less excited. And the second that happens, you've all of a sudden become unsold. They've sold you on something else. As Grant says, it's constantly sell or be sold. And what you have to do at that point is, one, get clear again on your goals, on what you're trying to do and why it's exciting and why it's valuable. And then write down again why your product is the best, why what you're doing is the best, and get resold on that. And sometimes you have to do it multiple times a day. Sometimes you run into these things that hit you hard, or even just hit you a little bit. And then all of a sudden the rest of the day you feel kind of lazy, or you're like, oh my God, I just want to go home. I just want to relax. I just want to do something else. What you actually need to do at that time is the harder thing, which is more of a pain, but get yourself resold on what you're doing and not let what other people say influence you. And when it does, just get back on track by writing the list of what you're doing, what you're selling, and why it's the best. And honestly, like in terms of coming up with your pitch, you always want to have something that is a hook. It needs to have a hook. There needs to be something that grabs people. One thing that grabs their attention and makes you stand out from the rest of the crowd. Something that's unique, something that's different. And simplicity as well, guys, is always the better way to go. Don't try to make anything complicated. Don't try to add too much into it. Keep it real simple.
Perfect.
Awesome.
I definitely like that. Keeping it clear and simple. So I'm going to have the other Megan. She's going to switch and do the next half of the kind of moderating with you, but definitely, I've loved everything you've shared so far. So keep learning, ladies. I'm going to take these notes now. I'm going on a call with a potential sponsor. So I'm like, I'm ready to go. Attitude check, greeting, fact find. I'm like, let's see how it goes. So
awesome.
Okay, so I'm just going to stop sharing. Megan's going to share her screen. Megan, you're host, right? I don't want this to end.
Yes. If you guys give me a minute, I'm just going to grab the presentation. 1 second.
This has been really great so far though, Christa. Like, I feel like it's been such a good refresher for me. I'm like, I definitely need to get back into training. I think that's one thing, maybe you can talk about that, but like the consistency of training in sales, like
totally.
Sometimes I'm like, oh, I got it. But then it's like, well, I don't got it because I'm not doing my best. But I really like that you said like the being like reselling yourself, because that happens a lot. Like people, maybe it's conscious or unconsciously, like you do get those negative comments sometimes and you feel it. You're like, oh, why am I doing this? Or I want to give up. I don't so it's good that you put that reminder in.
Very true. Very true.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you ready?
Right. Awesome.
Okay. Enjoy, ladies.
Thanks, Megan.
No problem.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So we'll go on to the next slide here. Awesome. So major point of when you're marketing something is something called feature, advantage, and benefit. So everything, when you're actually like presenting something to somebody or you're marketing it on the internet, you have to, first of all, know your audience and know who you're speaking to and figure out what features of your product are going to be the ones that actually hit the person you're talking to. Which pieces are important to them? Because otherwise, you could end up showing them a feature that they're like, yeah, okay, great. That has nothing to do with what I'm looking for. And that solves no problem for me. So you have to figure out what problem are they trying to solve. And then when you're presenting your idea, choose a feature that makes sense for that problem and then show them, explain the advantage. So the feature is simply, what is the thing? You know, what is the factor or piece of your presentation? And then your advantage is, how is it better than the competition? What makes that thing attractive? And then the benefit is what you get as a result of it. What do you receive as a result of it? So you could say like, you know, I've got a water bottle here. Great. So this is a feature. Got this water bottle. It's awesome. Advantage is that it holds a lot more water than the other water bottles that you have. Okay, great. That's what makes it attractive. It's also pink, super pretty, whatever. And then the benefit is that you're able to stay hydrated all day long. You don't have to stop and go buy another water because your water's run out. You don't have to stop and go refill your water bottle. So you're actually showing them exactly how your product or some piece of it, some feature about it is going to make their lives easier. And that's what we call it fab. You have to do fab with every presentation you do. Go over the features that apply to the person you're talking to, the things about it that make it attractive, and how it is going to help them or how it is going to solve a problem for them. Does that make sense? Awesome. All right, cool.
Sounds great. Yes.
I love it. Okay, sweet. Let's go on to the next one here too. Perfect. Promote, promote, promote. I'm sure all you ladies know this already. Like, you know, whatever stage of your business you're in, it doesn't matter. Promotion is constantly key. And Grant, like what Grant Cardone goes over as a major point is 10x. The fact that the reason people don't make their goals, they don't achieve their goals, is because they like hugely underestimate the amount of work that actually needs to go into achieving them. So whatever you think you need to do in order to achieve your targets, whatever you think is the necessary amount, you actually want to 10 times that. And you're going to know that when you start getting people telling you, oh my God, you're promoting so much, don't you think that's like a little bit much? Or they start complaining like, oh my God, like I'm getting so many emails from you, like please stop. That is when you know you are actually taking the right levels of action. When you actually start getting criticized for it, that is when you're at the right level. And eventually, if you continue long enough, that criticism is going to switch to admiration. And then that's going to switch to people actually asking you how you've managed to do what you've done. So just go full out on your promotion, on your marketing, Instagram posts, social media posts, phone calls, texts, emails. Do not hesitate to create as much of that as you can and get your name out as much as possible. Grant talks about it too. The biggest problem for people is obscurity. You want to be everywhere. You want people, when they think of your product or service, you want them to instantly think of you, not anybody else. Just think of you. And what that takes is actually an insane amount of promotion. Just to give you an example, I'm subscribed to Grant's email and he's already huge. He's a billionaire. And I literally get probably like 8 emails from his team a day, like literally 8 emails a day. That is the levels of action that you want to take in order to achieve what you want. Yeah, sure. Some people are going to unsubscribe. Some people are going to complain. Who cares? It doesn't matter. You just need to keep going and you're going to build your following that way. All right, we'll go to the next slide here. Yeah, definitely. I'm just looking in the chat here. You never want, like, it's instinctive. You hear that, you're like, oh my God, I don't want to annoy people, or I feel like I should stop because, you know, it's just too much. Just get rid of that idea. And, you know, another tip too is when you're promoting, like, give people different kinds of content. Provide stuff that's educational. Provide some stuff that is enlightening. and provide some stuff that's entertaining, some stuff that's fun, that shows you, that just who you really are in different parts of your life. Because yeah, you know, sometimes I've seen this happen too, where somebody is posting all the time, but they're posting the exact same thing over and over again. And quite frankly, it does get a little bit old. But if you're keeping it fresh, you're posting about different topics, maybe something about your personal life first, for one post, showing your family or whatever. And then you post something informational, then you post something inspiring, you post something funny. That's what keeps it light. That's what keeps people interested. So don't hesitate. Yeah, very good point. Like Target, Walmart, Amazon, they're everywhere. They're in your face all of the time. They are not concerned about annoying people, and they're some of the hugest companies on the planet. So don't let that stop you or get in your way. Awesome. Okay, good. Make the phone call. Oh, we'll go back up to that slide 6 there. Thanks. Perfect. So this is a piece that people really hate a lot of the time. And it is scary. Like, I don't know, maybe some people they're totally cool with it. They flatten that button. It's not a problem. But especially when you're kind of in the beginning stages, or maybe not even in the beginning stages, but you're calling people that you don't know, like you're making cold calls. What you want to always do is call out the objections you know you're going to get before you get them. So for example, you know, if you're calling someone and, you know, you haven't spoken to them in a long time, you know that maybe you don't know them well, you know, they're probably going to be in the middle of something and they're not prepared for your call. Say it as soon as they pick up the phone. You can be like, hey, you know, Sarah, how are you? Okay, great. Now I know I probably caught you in the middle of something and I 100% was not in your calendar for today. So I'm going to keep this down to 2 minutes. Is that cool with you? Okay, great. Awesome. The reason for the call is blah, blah, blah. And that keeps the person like immediately, you know, when they pick up the phone, you know, they're probably thinking like, oh gosh, you know, what's this about? I'm so busy. I'm in the middle of things. I'm not planning for this. If you say that before they have a chance to, it immediately diffuses that objection. And this applies to anything. So if you're pitching somebody on something and you're like, okay, you've done your research on this person and you're like, they already have this service, you know, maybe you're selling them supplements or something like that. I know I think Megan mentioned there's someone on here who has a supplement business and you're like, okay, I know they're already on a certain brand of supplements or they're on something else and I need to replace that. I want to get in there instead. Great. Just call it out. Be like, you know, once you establish some communication with them, you're like, look, I know you probably got your own system going already. It probably is working really well for you. And you know what? If what I have is not going to work for you, then I absolutely would not expect you to even listen to me longer than a couple of minutes. But if you're willing, if you're game, I'd love to share with you what I have. And if it suits you better, great. If not, no worries. Because that's another key point is you want to take away, this is something to make a note of, write this down. Take away any obligation. Because a lot of the time when you're talking to someone or you're pitching somebody on something, they get this uncomfortable feeling of like, maybe they feel obligated and that's what makes them uncomfortable throughout your conversation. But if you, first of all, call out the objections right away so they can relax because they know you understand them and you take away any obligation they might feel, now they're going to be much more able to be in communication with you. So that's a major point. Every guy here in our office, whenever they make a cold call, it's the first thing they say is, look, I know you weren't expecting my call. You're a busy guy. You're in the middle of 100 things. I'm going to keep this really short, okay? And I promise if you don't see any value in what I'm saying in the first couple of minutes, I'll just hang up on myself. And then the guy's like, oh, okay, cool. This guy understands me. Yeah, sure. I'll give you 2 minutes. And then you can actually get in there and get your communication out to them. So that's a very key point. And, you know, if you get an objection, yeah, super nice to not feel obligated and connect. Exactly. Like just be real. There's nothing that cuts through to a person like fundamentally or to their soul, for lack of a better term, than being honest and real with them. So use that, you know, and if you get people being like, yeah, you know, that's really great. I'm happy for you, but I'm just not interested. Great. You can just say, I totally understand. And to be honest, if I was in your shoes, I wouldn't be interested either. So you put yourself in their shoes and you say exactly what they're thinking. And then, you know, I understand you're not interested. I wouldn't be interested if I was you. But you know what? I'd love to just tell you about what I have. If it doesn't suit you, no problem at all. But this only takes 2 minutes. Super simple like that. Okay, cool. Anyone have any questions on that? If not, we'll go on to the next one here. Looks like we're good. Okay, sweet. I think there's 1 or 2 more slides here. Okay,
I
sweet.
think
Yeah,
it's one more. This is the
one
last
more.
one. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Always be connecting and stay in front of your prospects and clients. Something I wanted to add here is something called value-added follow-up. We call it VAFU for short. And basically, this is when you are constantly following up with someone, but you offer value when you're doing it. So this can be done with a customer who you've already sold something or you're already servicing, or it can be done with someone that is unsold, like you haven't offered them anything yet. And basically what you want to do is be constantly following up with them, but in different creative ways, not just like, hey, have you made a decision yet? Or, hey, have you thought about what we talked about? You want to be offering them things that actually offer value to them. So for example, sometimes I'll be like, I'll have a prospect and I talk to them, we have a conversation. Great. They're not ready to buy yet. No problem. But I happen to know something about them from talking to them. I know that they love to vacation in Hawaii or something like that. So I go on the internet and I find something about Hawaii that looks really cool. I save the link. I text it to them. Hey, thought of you when I saw this. Because now you're following up with them, but you're not constantly trying to sell them on something. You're just keeping yourself front of mind with them and actually showing that you care about them as a person as well. Another great way to follow up with someone is sending them a selfie video. Super uncomfortable when you first do it, but actually taking a video of yourself, just saying something simple like, hey, I really appreciated your time today. Let me know if I can help you with anything. Touch base soon. So you're staying in front of people, you're providing them value, maybe sending them a funny gift sometimes. It's crazy how that can work. I've had people who have gone completely out of communication with me. They don't answer me for months and I send them a gift that's ridiculous. And all of a sudden they're like, ha, ha, ha. And we start another conversation. It's crazy. So keep it fresh, keep it light, and don't always be trying to sell them. Don't always be trying to talk about work or your service or your product. Care about them as an individual. Awesome. Okay, cool. I'm just looking at the chat here to see if there's any questions. That was the last slide. There's definitely a couple of points I want to add here. So how do you get your pitch to 2 minutes, or what's the length of a perfect pitch? That's a really good question. And it really depends on the scenario. And I would say like 2 minutes is great. And just noting down your main key points. What are the key points that show value? What do you offer that has value? And keeping in mind, like, who you're talking to. Like maybe you're talking to a friend or someone and you guys are having a conversation and you have more time. Great, you can expand into it. You can go into a bit of a longer feature advantage benefit session, telling them about what features you have and how it's going to benefit them. Maybe if you only have a short amount of time, just keep it really simple. Introduce yourself. Acknowledge that you don't have a lot of time. Like always acknowledge the elephant in the room. Never leave it sitting there. Make a joke about it. Make it funny, laugh about it. Look, I know I'm not in your schedule and I'm probably like number 100 on your list of priorities for the day. No problem at all. I'm going to keep this really fast if that's okay with you. Okay, great. Now you got their agreement. Awesome. You've got 90 seconds now to finish the rest of your thing. So I've got this product, so-and-so. If you're not interested, not a problem at all. But I wanted to give you a couple of key facts about what I have to offer. So my product is X, Y, and Z. And the reason we actually created this is blah, blah, blah. You list out the problem that you're trying to solve with your product or service. And you list out what the advantages and then benefits, how it's going to make their life easier. And that's another key point, like we were mentioning earlier, always keep things clear and keep things simple. Listing out those simple points of what problem does your product or service solve and how is it going to make their lives easier. And always acknowledge the elephant in the room.
Thank you.
Yes,
I was
of
also
course.
wondering, are you trying to kind of get them to ask questions, or you're seriously just trying to keep it at 2 minutes? Like you want to give them concise information so that they can like process it and come back to you? Or
Totally.
do you encourage questions at that time?
I would
I know
always
I can get on the phone and talk forever. So
yeah, definitely always encourage questions. Like get as much engagement from them as you can. Because sometimes like there's nothing worse than when you're talking to someone and they just talk over you and you're like checking your watch. You're like, when can I get out of this conversation? Like always be like, say something like, we're trying to solve this problem because we've found that a lot of people run into this. Would you agree? Like, have you had that experience yourself as well? Yeah, I totally have. I actually find blah, blah, and blah. Okay, great. Now you've got more information from the person, and you can then add in a feature that would help them with what they just mentioned, or with what they struggle with, and then show them the advantage and the benefit, how that's going to make their lives easier. So always encourage that. Add in things like, would you agree with that? Or have you had this experience? Or, if you're pitching a certain product, ask them, what's the main thing that they run into with that type of product, or the main thing that they would like to solve in relation to that. The more you can get them talking back with you, the better. Awesome. Okay, sweet. One thing I just wanted to add, and then if anyone has any other questions, we can go into that. But the first rule of selling, I should have mentioned this at the beginning. Sounds funny. Always, always, always agree. Sounds crazy. I know there's that saying, the customer is always right. And we all know that's like a bunch of BS, and oftentimes they're not right. But the reality is, you have to be able to put yourself in their shoes and understand where they're coming from, because that is how you get them on your side. And that is actually how you take the power out of objections. It's a very key point in handling objections, is always agree with them. Even if what they say makes no sense and it's completely insane, you just got to be like, look, I totally understand. I'm with you. Like, I see why you would feel that way. I see why you could come to that conclusion. Because now, if they say something, you're like, oh, well, not really, actually. Or, oh, no, we don't do that. Or, oh, that's not quite right. Instantly, they're like, their back is up and they're like, okay, peace out. I'm out of this conversation. But if you acknowledge it and you say, I totally get that. If I was in your shoes, I'd feel the same way. What we actually do is this, or how it actually works is like this. You have to acknowledge it, and you have to show some level of agreement with them first. Because now, once you do that, they view you as a friend. They view you as an ally, rather than someone that's going like this with them, that is going to butt heads with them, because nobody wants to talk to somebody who's just going to butt heads. That makes sense? Awesome. Yeah, great question. I always prefer Zoom or FaceTime. Phone calls are great, but Zoom is better, because then you can see the person's indicators. Because sometimes someone might sound super interested on the phone, but they're actually doing something else, or they're watching TV, or they're scrolling Instagram. They're like, yeah, totally. Yeah, whatever. Right? So always get them on Zoom or FaceTime if you can, because then you can judge. It's so much easier when you can see the person's indicators.
So I'm sorry again. Just to, because I would think I would like to take notes too.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of handle that with a Zoom call? Or do you just tell them right up front?
I just tell them. I'll be like, oh yeah. I'll just be like, oh, I'm just going to make some notes here. Again, just don't be afraid to be real and call it out right away. Better than trying to take them secretly, because then they're going to be like, what's she doing? But if you just say it right away, they'll be like, okay, yeah, no problem. Awesome. Okay, perfect. Was there any other questions that anybody had? We're kind of coming to the end of the time here too, but let me know. Add them in the chat. Speak up if you want to. No problem at all. Floor is yours if you have one.
Any questions that anyone has, this is the time to ask. Okay, great. Well, these were great questions that Allison had, and definitely this was really great to listen to, because there's so many messages about sales out there. And I think the great thing about what you're going over with everyone is there's no hidden motives, hidden agendas, or being fake. It's very honest and open and real. And obviously people can sense if things are not real, and if it's strange, and that will obviously inhibit a sale. So I think it's great, the approach that you have and how you're explaining it to everyone. I'm sure everyone has found this really valuable. You guys can give a thumbs up if you think that, or if you got anything out of it. You can put anything in the chat. Oh, good. Maya said, I thank you so much. I love all your tips and really benefited from this. That's fantastic. Good. Well, I'm going to let Christa tell a little bit about what she does, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about what's happening at Modern Day Wife here before we end off. So I'll stop sharing for a minute just so you can see her, and then I'm going to share again to show you something exciting that's happening, okay? So Christa, why don't you just tell them a little about what you do, and if there's anything else you want to share with them too, and then I'll take over after that.
Absolutely. So yeah, we kind of touched on it at the beginning. I work for Grant Cardone. Ladies, this is the #1 sales and business training program on the planet. This is where I learned all of this stuff and so much more. It's not just sales and business training as well. It's life training. Like, it teaches you how to communicate with people, how to be real with people. So much stuff. So if anybody has any questions or they want to find out anything about it, feel free to email me. I'm just going to put my email address in the chat right there. Reach out to me. I also wanted to just provide, if it's cool, Megan, we have like a landing page with this free ebook. Is it cool if I put that link in the chat?
Of course.
Okay, awesome. I just popped it in there. It's a little ebook. It's totally free, on the biggest follow-up mistakes and how you should approach following up with customers. So if you want to take advantage of that, click on that link.
There, though. Can you put it there? Because we're going to do a recap on our stories. And
oh, shoot. I think
oh, here it is.
Oh, I put it in that direct message.
No problem, Allie.
I don't know how that happened. Okay, there we go. Perfect. Okay, good. So yeah, check it out. If you want some extra tips, jump in there. Feel free to email me. I'm super excited to jump on any future calls that you guys have too.
Awesome. Okay, great. Well, we're going to do a whole recap. I'll just recap what we're going to put in the stories for everyone else. These are some of the salient points for me. So, and I love this one. This actually, someone did this with me recently, and I really appreciated it. So take away the feeling of obligation in the sales call. 2, call out the objections right away. Now they'll be in, I don't know if this is the right way to say it, but an easier communication with you, or whatever, however we describe that. 3, promote, even if you feel uncomfortable or like it's too much, promote more. #1 rules in sales, always agree.
Yeah, always.
And I actually do fundraising also for a nonprofit that I run. And I always get corrected on that when I'm working with another person. They'll be like, Megan, don't say why you're right or or whatever. Just say, yes, you're right. You're right.
I got it. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't even necessarily mean that you're saying they're right. You're just acknowledging that you heard them. And I always thought that was really valuable for me. So it wasn't like I was reneging or giving up my own viewpoint or opinions. I was just letting them be right. And there's like other discussions are really just not part of what we're doing in that phone call. So I thought that was really valuable. So thank you.
Yeah.
And I do want to let you all know, so obviously this is something that we offer these webinars as a perk of being a member of Modern Day Wife. So we have these. I'm just going to pull up. I'm going to share my screen, and I want to show you guys what we have coming up in 2 areas. And because there's so many, I feel like I say this every week, but there's so many things going on right now. And we're really, if you are a member, you would have gotten an email from me this week with a survey, which I'm so happy Christa brought that up today, because I was thinking we needed to do a survey on our members. So you should have, those of you who are Vault members should have gotten a survey from me. Thais, I know you answered, and Farah, I don't think she's here. But if you can, fill it out for me, because that will be really helpful. But what we're trying to do is really give you content that's going to be what you need and want. Again, the word we're using today, need and want. So I just want to show, this is not ours. I'm going to show you what we have coming up. And then you will see. So next week, I told you, we have a very strong internship program in Modern Day Wife. So next week, we have this woman from Ripen. And this organization runs internship listings for businesses, and it's free. So she's going to explain how it works next week. And then we're actually just together going to use the second half of the webinar to put our own listings up for your own internship. I'm going to do it too. We want someone to write us a business plan, because I don't have time for that. So we're going to put a business internship up for a business student, right? So this is going to be a great webinar. And we decided to have this because this is what we do. We have a strong internship program. And then the following week, Megan, Chelsea, and I will also go over running your business and juniors on tasks using Asana. If you don't know what Asana is, I didn't know what it was either before 2021. It's a whole program that you use to run the people under you, so you don't have to keep track of all your emails or leave them as unread or forward them to yourself and then try to remember when it's due. You put it on this program. So we're going to show you how it works. It's what we use. And then we have all these other webinars coming up. This woman runs an organization called Entreprenista. She's going to be speaking. We have Jackie Lead, who is a health coach. Sarah Olea, who runs an organization in LA called Socialite, which helps you build up your Instagram account and your following. And this girl, Jessica Courthouse, is the CEO of So House, which is a women's membership group helping women founders with branding. So there's so many. I book these speakers. So I really try to book people that I need help with. So we have them booked all the way through mid-August. We're going to have more later on. And then I'm going to, so this is what we have coming up every week. And then also what we have coming up on May 16th is our Modern Day Boss Digital Summit. This is Sunday, May 16th. This is an event with an organization called Boss Talks. And we just signed on Garcelle Bouvet. You might recognize her from Coming to America, the movie with Eddie Murphy. She's also the host of The Real. She's going to be an opening speaker. And then we have all these different panels. We have the CEO of Olaplex, a relationships panel. This is with Deandra Simmons, a Real Housewife, and her husband, and Ashley Lagarde, who's a Canadian actress, and her husband's a hockey player. They're going to be our relationships panel. We have a branding panel, business automation, which I don't think Jane is still here, but she's speaking, social media marketing, strategies that scale, personal finance, everything beauty, some fireside chats, and then we also are offering a VIP ticket with this box. It's called the Modern Day Boss Box. We finally just finished collecting all the products that we wanted in it. So in addition to a VIP ticket, which provides you a networking opportunity during the event, you get this box delivered to your house, and it has all these products. So that's this event. And what I wanted to share with you as well, I'm just going to pull this up here, is all of these things I'm going over with you are part of our membership, which is called The Vault. So many of you are already members, and I saw Rachel did a story today, which is so amazing. Thank you. And her Instagram promoting these webinars and being part of this group, because you do get all these webinars complimentary. You get the monthly events if they're not collaboration events, complimentary. We have one coming up April 29th in LA and Vancouver. They are hybrid events. They're in person and virtual, and more to come on that soon. You get the weekly webinars, digital resources like workbooks, stock photos, and various things you can use for your Instagram. That's here. We have a private Facebook page, discounts on our merchandise. And this month we're offering a free month using the code BIRTHDAY. We would love for those of you who are not members to use this code, get a free month of membership, and see how you like it. You'll get access to our next 2 webinars complimentary, the one on the internships and the one on using Asana. And I'm just going to put the link in here for our membership. And Christa, you can give me a pass or a fail on my pitch now, but that's the link in the chat. And the code for your free month is BIRTHDAY. I just put it in there. And we would love to have you all join our community. We just had we just had a person join this week from Dubai. So it's really exciting. So thank you all so much for being here. I'm going to put it back to gallery view so I can see all your faces. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you, Christa, so much for giving us this amazing webinar that's probably worth thousands and thousands of dollars that we all just got for free. So thank you, Christa. And does anyone have any last questions or anything you want to say before we end off? Okay. Well, thank you so much, Christa.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you all. We'll see you next week.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.